There is no shortage of joyous moments during Paddington 2, the sequel to the 2014 surprise hit, and many of them revolve around a lip-smacking performance by Hugh Grant. He plays the villainous Phoenix Buchanan, a washed-up, narcissistic actor reduced to making dog food commercials, who spots a chance to finance his one-man show by stealing an antique book. The role gives the 57-year-old Grant a chance to don a variety of absurd disguises, among them a homeless man, a nun and a bishop, in his nefarious pursuit of riches. Grant appears to be enjoying himself enormously, which has not always been the case in recent times, on screen or off. The actor is showing every sign of undergoing a renaissance. Last year, he gave one of his most nuanced performances, radiating warmth as the devoted husband of the world's worst singer played by Meryl Streep in Florence Foster Jenkins. Protecting his wife from criticisms that littered her path like broken paving stones, he suggested not merely uxoriousness but tactical skill. He could turn an insult into a compliment or a damning notice into a rave, simply by inclining his head this way or that. No wonder Grant is putting himself back in the hands of that film's director, Stephen Frears, for the three-part BBC drama A Very English Scandal, written by Russell T Davies. He will play the MP Jeremy Thorpe, with Ben Whishaw as Norman Scott, the lover he tried to have murdered. For an actor who chooses not to work often, Grant has been seen in only 7 films in the past decade. It is important to work well, an obvious lesson, perhaps, but one which Grant has not always appeared to heed. "I've always thought that he was clever," said Frears last year. "I don't know why he makes the films that he makes, not that I've seen them." His appearance in Paddington 2 has a whiff of self-mockery about it. Seeing him as a lovey consumed with hate, seething at a world whose applause he simultaneously craves, it's tempting to recall the character sketch given of him by Drew Barrymore, his co-star in the expertly frothy 2007 romantic comedy Music Lyrics. "He is like a complete cynic, self-tortured and dark," she observed. "You'd go into his trailer and he'd be sitting there on the couch, chopping salad alone, an angry Englishman." In one of the quieter moments in Paddington 2, the camera pans around Phoenix's luxurious living room and catches sight of his display of framed photographs of himself. Right at the front is a black and white portrait of the old Hugh Grant, or, rather, the young one, the early 1990s incarnation with which audiences first fell in love, with his melted, faintly pleading eyes and his lips poised in preparation for an apology or a self-deprecating remark. And that hair, all that hair, simultaneously sculpted and floppy, meticulously styled to suggest the appearance of spontaneity. If ever a hairstyle embodied a man, it was this. He doesn't look carefree in that photograph exactly. He was never that, but nor does he yet seem disappointed with life. It must have been taken just after 4 weddings had converted a career marked by the ludicrous Ken Russell's The Lair of the White Worm, Roman Polanski's laughable Bitter Moon, into one in which he seemed to have some chance of following in the footsteps of Cary Grant. This turned out to be slightly wide of the mark. Unlike his half-namesake, Hugh Grant's brand of levity and charm was not easily transferable to other contexts. You would have to be exceptionally generous, or a member of Grant's immediate family, to regard the mediocre mob comedy Mickey Blue Eyes or the thriller Extreme Measures, both produced by his then-girlfriend, Elizabeth Hurley, as any kind of modern-day counterparts to Charade and North by Northwest. Hugh Grant on the set of A Very English Scandal in Chittlehampton, North Devon. Photograph Joan Wakeham Rex Shuttershock. There was always the sense that Grant wanted more than the narrow range of options dictated by celebrity. He has been at his most interesting when leaning toward his caddish side, exploiting the cruelty and sense of entitlement that are latent in his physical features. He can play it cartoonishly, as in Woody Allen's Small-Time Crooks, or with poignancy, as in About a Boy, but it is when toying with these dislikable qualities that he seems happiest. He first hinted excitingly at the extent of his range 20 years ago as a bitchy theater director in An Awfully Big Adventure, opposite Alan Rickman as the company's star actor. It was one of the early signs that Grant was chafing against the limitations of his 4 weddings image and what the public might expect of him. Being caught with a prostitute in his car on Sunset Boulevard in 1995, just as he was launching his charm offensive on the U.S. public with the comedy 9 Months, was another. And though he pushed on through several more confections by his 4 weddings writer, Richard Curtis, including Notting Hill and Love Actually, it was possible to see the joy and mischief leaking away. His was not merely that standard discomfort at being a public figure, though he has plenty of that too, but dissatisfaction at a deeper level. So intense was it, in fact, that he was moved to announce his retirement in 2004. "There's not much excitement anymore. I just lost interest, to tell the truth. I don't return my agent's calls. I don't read scripts. I was never a very committed actor. Now I can just stop. This is the last film I will ever make." In fairness, he was talking about the first Bridget Jones sequel, The Edge of Reason, a film so poor it could cause the most committed performer to throw in the towel. However, he carried on making movies. There may not have been many of them, but the quality control was low enough. Did you hear about the Morgans, the man from U.N.C.L.E. to make his admirers wish he wouldn't bother? If the spark seemed to have gone out of his acting, that may be because he had found one of his best roles off-screen, as one of the figureheads of the hacked-off movement for press regulation. Grant, along with many other celebrities whose voicemails had been hacked, had reason enough to bring legal action, but it was the discovery that employees of News International had hacked into and deleted the messages of the murdered teenager Millie Dowler that gave the movement serious momentum. Then, in late 2010, he had an accidental encounter with a former paparazzo, Paul McMullen, one of the men who had first blown the whistle on phone hacking. McMullen happened to be driving past in the Kent countryside when he saw Grant and his broken-down Ferrari at the side of the road. He offered the actor a lift, after first taking his photograph. Hugh Grant gives a television interview in support of Hacked Off days before the News of the World shut down. Photograph Peter McDermott. Getty Images. McMullen sold his account of the meeting to the Mail on Sunday for £3,000. Grant returned the favour by setting up another conversation with him, which he recorded secretly and then wrote up for the New Statesman, in which McMullen made allegations of uncomfortably close links between the press, police and politicians. Out of nowhere, this actor, who had seemed languid, even dissolute, found himself riding the crest of a story, motivated like never before. His outspokenness has given his energies a new outlet and has guaranteed him, if nothing else, a lifelong enmity from sections of Britain's press. Unsurprisingly, some papers have responded to his criticisms of their practices with concentrated attacks on everything from his personal life. He has 4 children by 3 women, and his career when he received his BFI fellowship in 2016. The Mail ran a mocking list of his flops and failure, to the fact that he has had the temerity to wage a spread of unflattering Longland snaps of him on holiday was headlined 4 bellies and a turkey neck. What this adds up to is not only one of the most curious episodes in Grant's life, but something more fascinated than any of the films he had been seen in throughout the preceding decade. And now that sense of risk-taking seems to be spilling back into his work. "I never felt Hugh was entirely comfortable in an actor's skin," said Sharon McGuire, who directed him in Bridget Jones' Diary. "Acting for him wasn't a religion. I don't even think he thinks of it as a proper job. But that doesn't mean he doesn't want to be perfect at it. For the first time in his career, that may be a possibility." The Grant Files. Born Hugh John Mungo Grant in Hammersmith, London, on the 9th of September 1960 to Fionnuala, a teacher, and James, manager of a carpet firm. Best of Times. A run of films written by Richard Curtis, notably 4 Weddings and a Funeral 1994 and Notting Hill 1999, not only made Grant a star but cemented his persona as the ultimate diffident but charming Englishman. In recent years, he has emerged as one of the figureheads of Hacked Off. Worst of Times. Arrested in Los Angeles for indecent conduct with Divine Brown, a prostitute, to which he pleaded no contest. Also arrested for assault in 2007 against a paparazzo, for which charges were later dropped. What he says: "The only reason that I've had a career is because I was good at recognizing and prioritizing what was entertaining. A lot of actors look at scripts and think, how will this stretch me as an actor? But I always thought, do I want to turn the page? Is this going to make people laugh? What they say, he can insult you and you're laughing. Then you go, wait a minute. He insulted me." Drew Barrymore.